Hi, I'm Senthil Nagaraj. I'm a partner solutions architect at AWS.
Hi, my name is Eduardo. I'm a senior partner solutions architect at AWS. Sentu, we've been talking to a lot of customers, and as they adopt more AWS services for their workloads, migrations, modernizations, they're looking for ways to optimize resource utilization, optimize cost, but they really want to optimize cost while maintaining application performance at an optimum level, right? What are some of the ways that IBM software on AWS can help customers achieve those goals?
Sure. So you talked about a couple different topics here, one being cost, one being performance management of their AWS resources,
Right.
and one being able to observe and look at how your applications are performing
Right.
within your cloud environment. So let's tackle those one at a time. I want to first talk about how you can tackle your costs on AWS using IBM's Apptio. Apptio is a financial management product from IBM that helps customers take care of their billing in one place. It also helps customers do their budgeting and forecasting in one place. And it also helps customers to do chargebacks to their different AWS accounts when that happens. They can integrate Apptio with AWS organizations if the customer is using that, and they can get information from their AWS accounts individually. They could get information such as cost and utilization reports from the management or the payer account to understand their full landscape and how costing is happening within their AWS environment.
So let's imagine that I have this information now. How can I tie that back to how well my application is performing? So if I want to optimize cost and determine, yeah, but the performance is still there, I'm not impacting how customers are interacting with my applications. So how can I combine these two things?
Sure, that's when IBM's Instana product comes in. Think of Instana as your application performance management product, or APM. You basically use it for getting observability into your workloads that are running in AWS. Just like Apptio, that helps you get billing information and cost-related information from your AWS accounts that are under organizations, you could use Instana to obtain deep insights into how your applications are performing within your individual AWS accounts under organizations within AWS. Say, for example, you have an application running in an EKS platform, and you want to know what happened to this application, and let's say you get peak traffic into your application, and then your application slows down. Now, you want to have observability to be able to go in and look at which Kubernetes resource is overloaded, where the failure is, and what do I need to do next. That's what Instana gives you.
And Instana can look at the entire stack, right? And the entire trace, all the logs on your applications, and really pinpoint if it's at microservice level, at the database level, which service is actually degrading performance and causing issues, right?
Yes.
And it's also capable of collecting all that information on 1 second intervals, correct?
Yes, it can collect all that information, and it can provide you that information in a centralized dashboard where you can look at what's happening across your application portfolio and take any actions that are necessary. Like you mentioned, it's not just application metrics, it's metrics from the underlying platform. Say, for example, like I mentioned, if you have a Kubernetes EKS cluster, it can give you metrics about your underlying EKS platform.
Okay, got it. So now we also have Turbonomic that comes into this mixture, right, from IBM. And can you tell us a little bit how Turbonomic fits into this equation?
Absolutely. Now, we talked about Apptio, which gives you financial information, right? Your IT financial management solution centrally. You have Instana, which gives you observability into your application. The one thing that we missed here is understanding how our AWS cloud resources themselves are performing. How am I benefiting from my AWS resources? Is there anything I need to do to make performance better? Get the most bang for my buck.
Right.
That's where Turbonomic fits in. Just an example, say you have applications running on EC2 instances. Think of it as virtual machines running on AWS where you host your applications. Now you get peak traffic into your application environment. Now you start seeing performance issues. Now you need to scale up, meaning you want to add more resources to be able to take that load and serve your customers. What Turbonomic helps you do is take a look at how your resource utilization is corresponding to your application within AWS, and it helps you plan out an action plan for how you want to scale out or scale in when there is less requirements or less traffic so that you can optimize the performance efficiency of your AWS
So
resources.
if you were using, for example, EC2 instances or a database on RDS that was too big for your demand, you can actually see that and shrink those down so that you optimize cost for the performance that you need, right? So you can shrink down the resources that you're using.
Yes, you could do that manually, and Turbonomic also lets you do that automatically,
okay.
right? So it has the capability so that you could go in and set it up and tell it, do this when this happens, and it does it for you. And then once that's done, it lets you know.
So we can mix all these three solutions together, right? And what do we get when we combine all these different IBM automation products?
Remember, I mentioned you want to have visibility into your costs. That's foremost. Companies that run organizations within AWS, like you see here, that have a management account or a payer account with multiple organizations under them and multiple AWS accounts within those organizations. And you have resources corresponding to applications that are running within those AWS accounts under those organizations. Let's say you had performance requirements and you wanted to improve performance and you wanted to add resources. Like in your example, you wanted to scale up your RDS or your relational database service. You want to know, yeah, Turbonomic can do that, but what's the cost impact of that action when Turbonomic does it? Now, Turbonomic has a plug into Apptio, which will tell Apptio, this is the cost for doing this. So Apptio can calculate that cost and it can chart that back to the corresponding AWS account. So you're always in the know. When something happens in your AWS account, as it correlates to performance, Apptio tells you how much it's going to cost you. Now, coming back to observability. So let's say, along the same lines, you had an application that's not performing well, maybe peak traffic, and your observability is telling you there's something wrong. So let's say you don't have enough Kubernetes resources or nodes in your Kubernetes environment. Instana can plug into Turbonomic. So Instana has its own connectors that connect to Turbonomic, and it tells Turbonomic this is where things are wrong. And Turbonomic can in turn scale up those resources. And all of this information can flow back up to Apptio so that you know for this application to perform optimally, this is my cost.
Okay, so you can create quite a dynamic environment here where you can take immediate action to scale in and out, add more resources, deal with the performance metrics that are required. At the same time, you can control cost in a very close way of all the different accounts that you have on AWS, all the different workloads, right?
Great, Eduardo. Since you talked about cost, I want to talk about some of the advantages that this entire stack in the AWS Marketplace brings to the customers. First thing is, when customers buy any product through AWS Marketplace, it goes towards their EDP or Enterprise Discount Program spend commitments. So a lot of our enterprise customers commit to spend a certain amount on AWS, and in return, AWS gives them discounts for those spend commitments. Customers buying these products through AWS Marketplace automatically qualify for EDP because 100% of your purchase through Marketplace goes towards your EDP commit. And the second is in the Marketplace, there's an option for customers to get private offers from these ISVs or independent software vendors. They often get discounted pricing from the vendors.
Okay.
So we call that POs or private offers. And now, guess what? This entire money they're committing to buy through the private offer goes towards their EDP commit.
Okay. So if I want to buy Instana or Apptio through the marketplace, I may see a price there, but I can get a discounted price from IBM via private offer.
Yes, and then that cost goes towards your EDP commitment.
Okay, that's cool.
And the third thing I want to talk about is with Instana, you're monitoring your application for performance.
Right.
And then you're feeding that into Turbonomic. And Turbonomic decides, I need to add resources.
Okay.
Let's say, for example, EC2 instances to improve your workload performance.
Right.
Now we determine that these workloads need these instances for a long period of time. Turbonomic has the ability to recommend to customers that they go with reserved instances
Okay.
for requirements that are for longer periods of time.
That way they can generate some savings on the EC2 instances they're using.
Exactly. So there are three different types of commitments. One is a 1-year commitment. We have 2-year reserved instance commitment and 3-year reserved instance commitment. The longer customers commit for, the greater the savings. So by using this technology stack, customers automatically save costs on their instances. So now you have these three ways for customers to save costs on their AWS infrastructure using these three IBM products together through the AWS Marketplace.
And these products on the marketplace, they are available both as SaaS but also self-managed, right? Can you explain a little bit the difference between customers that are looking to adopt this as a SaaS? What do they get from IBM versus customers that for whatever reasons like security or compliance or regulatory reasons they have to deploy it in their own Amazon VPC? So what are some of the differences they see on the marketplace for these products?
Absolutely. When customers procure SaaS products on AWS, in this instance, Apptio, Instana, or Turbonomic, they are fully managed by IBM, and these products run on IBM's AWS accounts.
Okay, so there's nothing running on the customer account in this case.
The customer doesn't have to deploy anything per se. They just consume these products as tenants. Basically, it's just another application that the customer is using. There is one instance where customers would need to deploy an Instana agent.
And that's just to be able to collect the observability metrics from their services on AWS?
Yes, exactly. If you have, let's say, for example, workloads running on EC2 instances, and you want to capture performance metrics on your applications, then you would install this Instana agent in your EC2 instance, and that will in turn send this data over to your Instana tenant that's fully managed by IBM. And that information flows down to Turbonomic. It takes the necessary actions, and then that information flows into Apptio so you can have your full financial picture.
Okay, for customers that choose to deploy the products themselves, then they have the option through the marketplace to deploy within their own AWS account and have full control over that deployment.
Absolutely. So we do realize that customers do have requirements, be it regulatory or organizational. We do provide these products as packaged software products through AWS Marketplace. Again, when you buy the product from AWS Marketplace, even if it's customer deployed, you get all these advantages. You could deploy it in your own VPC in a common account and then tie into your different AWS accounts in your different organizations and get a centralized view of your finances, of your application performance, and your resource performance within AWS.
This has been great, Santu. I think this was a very productive conversation. I really appreciate having you here today. Thank you all, and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.